Howdy, y'all. Welcome to another episode of Card Blitz. I'm your host, Kelly Reed, joined by my friends, Steve and John. Fellas, how's it going?
Good,
Going great.
Kelly. For you.
Excellent, guys. Well, hey, John, why don't you start us off, introduce yourself and your channel, and then Steve, follow up, please.
So I'm actually pretty fortunate. This is my second time on your channel. But yeah, John nerding out with cards, big time St. Louis guy, Cardinals guy, Ozzie Smith and all that. But I think we should let get over to Steve so he can introduce himself more.
Yeah, I'm Steve, Rev Steve Cards. This is my first time on, but very glad to be here. I'm a Pirates fan, but grew up collecting Ricky Henderson and stuff. So we'll be talking about that later, I'm sure. But yeah, live in the Pittsburgh area now.
Well, gentlemen, I really appreciate y'all jumping on board. I think this should be, if all goes as planned, this will be like the first of many episodes of our, I guess we'll call it like the Trace Hombres series, the three amigos here. And we'll get into like card talk and show off some cool cards and just enjoy the hobby for what it is, right? It is cards and it's getting together, it's fellowship, and it's building relationships.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
All right. Well, topic the kind of intro topic, putting up there the old T-ball stand there is this thing called unlicensed product.
Mhm.
Okay, so I wanted to kind of pick your brains, get your thoughts on unlicensed product. You like it, don't like it, your reasons, all that good stuff. So whoever wants to, lead off, be my guest.
Lead off if you want, but I think there's two areas where like unlicensed product excels, and so when we think of it like today, we think of like Panini, right? And all that stuff. So from that vantage point, I got a few cards to show here, but there's players that Topps does not produce, and so therefore you only get them in the unlicensed product, so to speak. And so like this is like Cool Papa Bell. It's like those Negro League players. This is Mule Suttles. And so like I learned of that from Shane over at Shoebox Legends. Shout out, YouTube Hall of Famer now, but you know, Topps does not make cards of them. Like you'll get like the Satchel Page or something like that every once in a while, but that's really about it. And then there's other players. So like my guy Ken Boyer, I don't have any yet of him that are unlicensed. But if I want to get newer cards, I have to go that route, just because Topps doesn't provide that option, right? And then if you go back to like the 80s, 90s, there was tons of unlicensed product out. So when you get like a guy like me that super collects Ozzie Smith, there's tons and
Definitely.
tons of unlicensed product, and like I know Steve collects Ricky Henderson, but so when you collect a player like Ozzie Smith, like I do, it you're looking for like the iconic cards, the cool cards, the rare cards, the obscure, and you're also looking for volume, and that's the obscure and volume is where this stuff really comes into play. And like there's Burger King, you know, Chef Boyardee, starting lineups. We remember those, right? The figures.
Definitely.
There's games like Catico Disc, Jimmy Dean Sausage, Post Cereal. I mean, I could go on, right? But
Who's your
um,
favorite player again?
yeah, right. It's Ozzy, yeah. But so I think there's a place for unlicensed product. It's just not obviously if you're looking for like high dollar cards, value cards, or something like that, then that's probably not the route to go. But I still think that they're really cool. And in today's era, it provides something that Topps fanatics cannot do with certain players.
Well, Steve, what do
Yeah,
you
see,
think, man?
I was kind of thinking about it the same way. Like I only pulled out two Ricky Henderson cards, but I have a few of his like his Panini cards and stuff, and this is one I picked up. See if I can get it to show at a show. Just thought it was kind of a cool looking card. Let's see. There we go. You can see the ring anyway. but like it's a cool card, and I like it. And I've got a couple more. Actually, one of them was a gift from Jay at Average Vintage. Vintage, very cool card. Um, but I think the difference, and then the other one I pulled out was actually from '91. It was a '91 post of Ricky Henderson, and my thinking was that it was different growing up having unlicensed product as opposed to what it is now. Partly because um, today it's trying to compete with tops. And I don't think it was trying to compete with tops in the 80s and the early 90s. I don't think there was a competition. I think it was like, hey, I'm at a grocery store and they have their own cards. That's kind of cool. So let's pick those up too so I can get more cards. It wasn't a competition. And I think Panini's trying to compete and trying to be that kind of, well, if you don't like tops, if you prefer our stuff, come buy our stuff instead. Because and and so unless you're just buying everything, like John. Unless you're buying everything from players, then I think they're trying to have you make a choice. And I just don't feel like it was that way in the 80s and the 90s. That Hostess and Post and Rite Aid and McDonald's, they weren't trying to compete. They were just trying to get get in on the deal. Everybody's buying cards, everybody's making cards, and so for me, the unlicensed stuff back then was I kind of reacted to it differently. Maybe it's because I was a kid, now I'm an adult. I don't know, but I think for me that was a big part of it, just the difference of today. And so I don't love Panini. I don't love the unlicensed. I like to see logos. I like to see, whether it's Ricky on the A's or whether it's one of my Pirates. I like seeing the logos. So my preference is licensed product. But I still see some value in the unlicensed stuff. I hadn't thought about it so much with the players you can't pick up in kind of modern day stuff. I think that's a good point too that John made.
Yeah, I was going to definitely give John kudos for the bringing up, the obscure and the players that don't that are not like in the forefront of our attention these days with modern players. Ted Williams, 1994, I think also 1993. I had a couple of baseball sets that went through like not only Negro leagues and old time baseball like pre-war, but also like women in baseball, and then even through like Clemente. So, kudos to Ted Williams for being top of mind and thinking that way. Um, Steve, to kind of, I guess, validate your point about the food issue and the regional issue stuff. Like as a kid, like you're going to this grocery store to get a box of cereal. Well, what baseball cards are on the back, or like Hostess, like, hey, what's on the bottom of the box of Twinkies, or chocolate, ding dongs and whatnot. So was it's about selling product, moving product versus, and that's enticing for our attention span versus competing with, a licensed product or unlicensed product with shelf space, in a card shop or online.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I never thought of it like that. Comparing unlicensed now to unlicensed then, like Steve had put, that's excellent because like when I was a kid, I just wanted the cereal that came with the cards. Much to your point, Kelly, about trying to move product and stuff. But then, one of the things I think of too is there's players similar to like Ricky Henderson, although he spent a lot of time in Oakland, but he also played for a lot of teams. And so when a player is not necessarily branded with a team, but they themselves are their own brand, an unlicensed product can excel more for them than maybe for other players that are definitively associated with one team, and
yeah,
therefore the logos matter.
I was going to interject and ask you, modern day, the only, with Aaron Judge, would obviously I think Shohei Ohtani, global phenomenon. He, but
Yeah.
would those two players, would they transcend licensed, unlicensed, and just, for your attention to want to have that card?
I mean, I don't want either of their cards, but I think
Well,
Judge is Judge is like definitively a Yankee though, where Otani is global,
I,
so I think
yeah,
Otani could.
yeah. I agree. I think they're different. I think Judge is definitively a Yankee, and Shohei is not definitively a Dodger. I know he's been there a while, but he didn't. He hasn't spent his whole career there, and because he comes from another country, the Japanese people they love him on their cards. I don't. I don't know that they care so much that he has the Dodgers logo. It's interesting though, thinking about it that way.
Well, definitely, guys. Let me throw this last caveat to y'all. Would you go out and buy unlicensed like box or packs, or would you intentionally try to, build a set of cards from either, from like Panini?
I wouldn't, but I don't like shiny cards that much, except for novelties in my collection. And so that's for me, I like having a few shiny cards, but if I were to build a set, just the tops base set is kind of the way I wouldn't even want tops chrome. I just like probably because I'm old, but I don't like the shiny stuff as much. Again, I like some of it. I like some of the novelty stuff. I've got some really cool shiny cards, but I wouldn't want to build a set. But that's less to do with the licensing and more to do with the just I wouldn't want Topps Chrome or anything like that. I love Stadium Club. That would be great. But
So if you're looking at, let's say, Kellogg's 1981 or 1983, 85 baseball card set, would you be interested in getting that full run, even though it's unlicensed?
probably not. Probably not for me. I probably prefer the tops. But again, I think that's because the set itself is more expansive. You know, you with your Kellogg's or your Hostess or something like that, you're going to get just your stars. And if I'm a Pirates collector, I kind of like having the guys who aren't stars. You know, my main PC outside of Ricky Henderson is Manny Sandian. When
Mhm.
people put together the stars of the Pirates, they don't usually think of Manny Sandian. And so, but Topps does. They have him in all their sets. O-Pee-Chee doesn't even have Sandian in all of their sets. You cannot get his rookie card, or at least two of his other cards in the O-Pee-Chee set. And so, for me, that changes things as well.
How about you, John? You should have some of the newer Panini cards. I mean, do you go out and buy packs or boxes, or you looking at singles when you're at a card show?
Singles, yes. Like I don't buy packs or boxes anyway. Regardless of the product, that's just not my thing, right? Because I'm so centric in I want my guys, I want St. Louis, and that's pretty much it, right? Um, but yeah, like there's those cards right there. I definitely do see Ken Boyer, uh, unlicensed product, in my collection down the road. And then at the same time, like the Panini cards have some really cool themes to them. They have some really cool designs to them, whether it be Hall of Fame designs or like they got this one called Boys of Summer. I think that's a really cool theme and design to it. So I can see myself picking those up, but um, just not like the packs or anything like that. But the same is true with tops as well.
Alrighty. Well, let's get to the meat and potatoes of why we're for this episode, and that's looking at our five favorite baseball players of the '90s. So it's not like, hey, who had the most hits, home runs, or wins, or greatest ERA or WHIP or batting average. And it's subjective. Obviously, there might be some overlay, but it's just about our five favorite players. So, who would like to go first?
All right, I'll go ahead and go.
All right, show your number five. Then Steve, you can do your number five, and then I'll do my number five.
All right. So you cannot talk about 90s baseball without talking about McGuire and Sosa and definitively Cardinals baseball, right? So, I mean, those were fun years. The team is bad, but there was something to cheer for. There was something to follow, and things like that. So I got his 1998 base tops card right here to represent that. But those were extremely fun years of baseball to follow.
For my number five, I wanted to go with I wanted to have at least one pitcher in here, and so why not go with the bird killer? Went with Randy Johnson. I'm trying. There we go. Uh, I love Randy Johnson. You know, I can't get that. There we go. I should have found a different way to do this lighting. This is fine when I do it on my own, but not when I'm recording with the group.
Yeah,
But
right.
anyway, I always loved this is 92 stops. I loved his just his demeanor when he came to the mound and looked like he wanted to kill everybody. I kind of like players that are like that. That's why I like Bob Gibson too, by the way. But we're not doing players of the '60s. But I always love Randy Johnson and just his and the story. You know, when I'm talking to my kids about baseball, there aren't many stories that are cooler than the guy who killed a bird with a baseball. It's PETA probably doesn't like that, but I think it's funny, and so my kids enjoy the story. So Randy Johnson is definitely one for me.
Steve, I was going to ask, do your kiddos know about his photography acumen?
No, no, not yet. I haven't discussed that too much with them, but I should because I love his logo, which is just the feathers or something, aren't they? Or a dead bird or something.
We'll have to do
Uh,
some research.
yeah, yeah, it's pretty funny.
Well, similar to you, going the pitcher route, my number five, man, he came onto the scene in 1995, and the Tornado is his nickname. Fresh out of Japan at the time, Mr. Hideo Nomo. And so I don't know if you guys are getting a good view of this card, but like I said, Hideo Nomo is my number five. I mean, Nomo Mania was massive. I was living in Taiwan at the time, and I mean, it was just massive, just over in Asia. And I assume he was pretty popular in the States at the same time in the mid to late '90s.
Oh yeah, I remember when Hideo Nomo came up. It was a big deal.
All right, well, let's go on to round four.
All right, round four. So another pitcher, but they got Lee Smith, and I was hoping
Hey,
that he'd go to the Hall of Fame for years and years, and he finally did. And I've actually gotten a chance to meet him. I've showed this card on my channel and other people's channel before, but this is one that I had him sign because it's his first Cardinals card, 1990 tops traded. But he was dominant reliever, and he set the all-time saves record as a Cardinal in '94, and I think his most dominant years were as a Cardinal.
Oh, I lived in Illinois and Iowa when I was younger, and so it was all Cubs all the time. And so I heard and read and played with kids who loved the the Cubs. So I only wanted to pick one Cub. So I was trying to figure out which one, and I went with Ryan Sandberg. Worked with him on his Stadium Club card. Love the Stadium Clubs anyway. Uh, Missed him for sure. Uh, but yeah, loved Ryan Sandberg and the whole Cubs, and loved his mentality of his approach to the game. You know, he was very old school when it came to baseball. He didn't mess around. Baseball was meant to be played and work hard and all of that. So just kind of enjoyed that.
Steve, I was going to ask you, have you ever been to Wrigley Field?
No, no, I have not. The only major leagues field I've been to is Pirates one here. So
Well, maybe we can do the meet in the middle and go hang out with John and go catch a Cardinals game, right?
that sounds good. Yeah, it'd be all right.
For my number four, for me in the '90s, coming out of the University of Auburn, he played football and baseball, the Big Hurt. And man, I mean, I'm telling you, like this, yeah, it's one of those bat cards, like piece of the bat. And so, getting a card like this and thinking about, the damage that he was doing on the bases, and he was just such a lovable character, in baseball back then. Definitely, Frank Thomas is my number four, and he's still doing his thing on TV sometimes.
Yeah, that's one of those early relic cards too. Like those are
Yeah.
really desirable cards.
You guys will have
But
to educate me on that part because I mean I just remember like getting them in the mid to late '90s, early aughts, I think, and after that, man, I don't know if back cards are even desirable, but for me, with Frank Thomas, it's a significant piece.
yeah, I mean the whole relic card thing, which is a whole nother subject, but there's the early ones and then there's the now stuff. But they didn't start that till like '97, I think, at its earliest. But so my next guy is Ray Langford. The Cardinals, we didn't have a whole lot to cheer about throughout the '90s before McGuire, and Ray Langford was just such a really good player. Hit the most home runs in Bush too, but this is his first flagship tops card anyway. He had a debut card from 1990, I think, his rookie cards are in the 1990 sets, but this is his first flagship Topps card, which was from 1991.
Nice. Like the 91 set.
Yeah, and
I
then Topps is their 35th anniversary or whatever is the 91 design. So in the new stuff, that's what they're doing.
In the 2026 Tops
Yep.
flagship, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So John, you should know that I told Kelly that I was going to be counterbalancing you because I knew you were going to pick all Cardinals, so I wasn't going to pick any. No Cardinals in my top five. So here we go. How about some Don Mattingly, some Donnie Baseball, and this is on the '93 Flair set, which I love this set. It's one of my favorite sets that came out of the '90s. The Flair. Um, why I get annoyed when people call Flair because Fleer had a flare. What I don't do they call this Flair? I don't know. But anyway, Donnie Baseball. when when the Hall of Fame debate came up, and I whatever with the Hall of Fame. I know John, you don't care, but my argument for some of that is it's Hall of Fame, so some of it should have to do with fame. And I don't know if there was a baseball player more famous than Don Mattingly in the late '80s and the early '90s. Until the home run stuff started going off, but just kind of over that span. So anyway, I love Don Mattingly. Always, even though we don't like the Yankees, still pick one anyway. So Donnie Baseball.
Do y'all think he, I feel like he's synonymous with like mid 80s baseball, late 80s baseball. Like he is baseball back then. Other than you got your Bash brothers out in Oakland doing their thing. But I mean, yeah, Donnie Baseball was like the man.
Yeah, yeah. I was trying to think of like okay, so when I collected Ricky Henderson, and we'll get to that. But when I collected him, it was uh, if I opened a pack of cards and I got a Don Mattingly, I could get two Ricky Hendersons for that card. Like that's how I think of players from when I was growing up because he was so popular. And same thing with Brian Sandberg and Andre Dawson and all of those guys. But like Don Mattingly, he was definitely one of the most collected players of the late '80s, early '90s.
Yep, definitely top tier. Well, my number three is going to
All right,
make
so
Yeah,
this thing. My number three is going to make John happy here because I am going with the Cardinal, and he kind of mentioned him earlier, but this Mark McGuire guy, he was such a that home run race against Sosa. I mean, that was just captivated. I was, hearts and minds. And when I was living in Taiwan in 1998, he was daily in the newspapers there and seeing that race at the end. I mean, it was legit awesome. And I feel like this 1999 Pacific card, very creative, very innovative on their behalf. And it's just
I
kind of cool, man. Like Big Mac with the sunglasses, man.
oh yeah,
haven't seen that card. It's very cool.
Definitely. All right,
yeah,
so we're getting to the like top two of each, right?
oh yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
those 90s cards are just so great. Like, I don't have a McGuire card like that has that cool factor, wow factor like you do. But so for my number two guy, and it kind of piggybacks off of Steve's guy because the other 1985 MVP, Willie McGee,
Nice.
and so he came back to the Cardinals in 1996, and this is what I consider a last playing days card of him from 1999, and it was sold at McDonald's here in the St. Louis area. So I figured that'd be kind of cool. It's a regional thing, whatever. But like I say, he came back to St. Louis. Here's a stadium giveaway from when he retired.
Love it.
But I grew up with stories of Willie McGee for years. Whitey ball. Like you talk about like, oh well, Don Mattingly was like the most popular thing in baseball. Like I think of '80s baseball as Whitey ball, and the Cardinals' success and all that good stuff. Willie is a part of it. While he was playing with the Giants, he was included in a 100th anniversary Cardinals set. So I thought that was really cool. And then when he came back in 1996, that was really big time for like my fandom. I was 11 at the time, and the Cardinals got really good that year, a game away from the World Series, and then Willie ended up playing until '99. So it was fun getting to watch him play because I missed out on those 80s years.
Well, my number two, I had to force pick a pirate. Couldn't go without that, and so I went with Andy Van Slyke. And this is him on his Bowman Tiffany. Uh, even growing up in the kind of Iowa and Illinois area, Andy Van Slyke was the man, and just love having his cards then, love having him now. Just a great all around player. Really, um, Bonds stole him of making it to the World Series, but that's a story for another day. But yeah, great player, Andy Van Slyke.
I thought you were
Both
showing
guys. Say again.
So I thought you weren't going to show any Cardinals, but he is a former Cardinal.
It's
Not
true.
in the 90s.
Hey,
Not
let
in
me
the
just ask
90s.
you guys on that Bowman Tiffany. I mean, are
Uh,
those like as coveted as like the Topps Tiffany cards from like
I
the
really,
80s?
what's funny about that card is most of the Andy Van Slyke cards I have are from the 80s, but that one was a gift. I got that one from Lenny over at Cardcast, and he just sent it to me. So I actually don't know what it would cost. I have no idea. Um,
I'm curious, man. I'm like
I really don't know.
Tiffany. How
I
about
would
that?
assume I did actually read something that said that they think the print quantities were 3,000. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's what I read uh, about the Bowman from '90.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I would venture to say that the Topps Tiffany's cost more than the Bowman, for sure.
Yeah,
I
well,
would think. Yeah, just in general they do probably.
we'll have to do some R&D and see what we come up with for a future episode on Tiffany and Bowman versus Topps. My number two. And I'm going with another pitcher here because when I think of 90s baseball pitchers, I think of Greg Maddux, former Chicago Cub, I guess, but I really identify him as an Atlanta Brave. And that World
Yeah,
Series against the Indians in '95, him sealing the deal. For me, just and also he didn't have to overpower, hitters. He was all about precision and placement. And so Greg Maddux, he means a lot to me, back collecting back then and even today.
Greg Maddux would frustrate me. Like he has all those strikeouts because, like, I still think that he was just getting calls that nobody else was getting.
you're not the only one who thinks that. There's a
Well,
lot of
he is the professor, so
He
he
would have to throw strikes. Oh man. So my number one, I think it's pretty obvious who my number one is, but um, I'm gonna go with a card that started it all for me. So Steve showed a 1992 Topps, so I got my 1992 Topps Ozzie Smith right here, and this was the first card I can remember ever getting.
and that is awesome.
And I actually got to meet him then. Uh, I don't have that baseball anymore. I don't know what happened to it, but ironically enough, my dad got me this as a Christmas present a few years later, and it's on a 1992 card, but it's an Ozzie Smith autograph. And then I just want to show one more card because we were talking about unlicensed product, and so we got this craft singles
I
card,
remember those.
and this is from my childhood. So I did this years and years ago. I think it
nice.
pops out.
Remember those, man, back in the day from Kraft.
But yeah, so I figure I show an unlicensed card with some flair, whatever you want to call it, as the last one for my guy
And
Ozzy.
food issue on top of it, so it's
Yeah.
delicious. How about you, Steve-O? Who's your number one, man?
All right. Well, it won't come as any surprise here either for anyone. My favorite player growing up, 80s, 90s, and still today is my man Ricky Henderson, the greatest base stealer of all time. No contest, no questions. Greatest leadoff hitter. He holds several records that will probably never be broken. Certainly stolen bases, season career. He has the most home runs by leadoff hitter. He has the most runs ever. And people kind of they talk badly about that, like, well, runs don't, that's other people hitting you in. But man, if you can get to first base and then you can get to second, guess what happens? You're going to get hit in. And so the most unintentional walks ever, his second most walks behind Barry Bonds. He beat Babe Ruth over 3,000 hits. He is not in the three. Here's an interesting stat. He's not in the 300 club because he hit 297 home runs. But if he would substitute 1,000 stolen bases for 3 home runs, he'd be in the 300 club. That's a pretty cool stat, I think. So that's Ricky Henderson, my man. And the funny thing is for me growing up, I've talked about this on my channel. I don't know, but not a lot. I didn't have a TV growing up. I never watched sports, but I collected Ricky Henderson. And so the way that I would learn about his stats and what he did was by reading the newspaper. And so I would sports page, grab it, see what did he steal a base last night? Maybe he stole two last night, and his cards, and that was how I learned about. That's how I fell in love with Ricky Henderson. Loved his cards. Loved that one of him. Clearly getting he's stealing a base there. I was only going to show one because Kelly told us to show one, but you showed three, so let me show you. This is my '93 Flair. That's the one that's in my Mag Pro with my Mag Pro label. But this is one of my favorite cards of Ricky Henderson. This is '93 Flair card. I could show you a bunch more, just like he could show you a bunch more Aussies. But yeah, always my favorite growing up. Just an amazing player, underrated in his day, uh, and I will maintain that he was underrated in his day, and I think still probably underappreciated now. He's the 11th highest WAR among all players. I think 11, maybe not that high, but he's pretty high. He's quite high.
Well, when your nickname's the Man of Steel, like he's kind of iconic for
Yeah,
that feat alone.
yeah, yeah. The reason I say he wasn't appreciated in his time is kind of funny. When if you go back and look at '90s insert sets, he's not in very many of them, and that's wild to me that he broke the record for stolen bases in the '90s and was in so few of the insert sets. It was all about the home run hitters, and so no one really kind of paid much attention to him.
Well, as we're kind of up against it, let me follow y'all's lead with the 3-for-1. And don't scream and like poke your eyes out when I do this, but this is a product of the '90s, from the '90s, about my favorite '90s player, and that would be Mr. Juan Gonzalez.
Long gone.
Yeah. But and definitely, man. I mean, when I a two-time MVP, and yeah, I know exactly. People are gonna be like, get those out, free those cards. Um, you know, but I mean, they've been there for over 30 years. I enjoy looking at this. It's my cards, but I was so disheartened by the fact that he never got to 500 home runs because I feel like if he did that with the two MLVP or the two MVPs and the AL, I think he would have been in the Hall for sure. Everyone else will throw out the hey steroid use, Canseco influence. That's another episode for another day, but. For me, man, the '90s, all throughout the '90s, man, getting Juan Gonzalez cards in a pack, trading, that was my jam.
Still have some of those cards I picked up back in the '90s myself.
Definitely, man. It was a special time, the '90s for us. So as we're kind of wrapping up, man, John, you got any closing thoughts?
No, I mean, I think I know like Steve, he's a big vintage collector. Like I collect vintage cards and whatnot. But what's great about this decade of cards anyway is like this is a decade where I was growing up. It's where I learned about baseball, started collecting baseball cards. So it's definitely the decade of nostalgia, that I think every era of collectors has. And so this was a fun one to go through for sure, with our round robin, and then talking about the unlicensed stuff, which I think has its place. And it's if you can enjoy it, and if you can't, then it's not for everybody.
And
Yeah, I
Steve?
agree. I really collected more. I started collecting in the '80s, so that's kind of my most nostalgic period. But for me, going into the '90s, one of the big changes, of course, it started with '89 Upper Deck, with just the quality of the photos, and then and so I really appreciated that, and still appreciate that. Like I love vintage cards. I collect vintage cards. I will always collect vintage cards, but there's something that I love about these cards in the '90s too, and just I don't care if they're worth a dime. It just doesn't even matter a bit to me. I love the cards. I love how they look. I love how they present. I love having them in binders. I know John feels the same way. Love having my binders of Ricky Henderson cards and so forth. Yeah.
Well, let's say for me, the 90s, as a young adult back then, so I'm probably aging myself, but how innovative card, you had all these licensed manufacturers, the way the inserts came out, the designs of just base cards were awesome. So many different sets. So for me, I'm really enjoyed doing this episode with you guys. I want to do more, and we'll reconvene. We'll figure out a schedule. But for Trace Hombres #1, I think we're doing all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Thank you. Thanks, Kelly, for doing this. Good to chat with you too, John. Very good.
Definitely. We'll do this again. And on that note, we'll call it a night.